listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast, the longest-running Miami Dolphins podcast on the internet.
We're always in control, and when you say Miami, you're talking to Red Bull. 'Cause we're the Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins, Miami Dolphins #1.
What's up, Miami Dolphins fans? How are you today? And thank you for listening to the DolphinsTalk.com podcast on this Tuesday, August 19th. I'm your host, Michael Leva, joined by our old friend Josh Moser from WSVN 7, South Florida's #1 news station. Josh, how you doing today?
Doing great, man. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Getting closer to football season, real games. A lot of news to talk about with the Dolphins. As we go into the final week of training camp, final joint practices, final preseason game, and then we're there. They're going to cut down this roster, and we're really going to have a lot to talk about then.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the fun part. For the players, it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but, realistically, you're talking about 5 roster spots maybe. Everyone else pretty much knows where they stand, so it's just those bubble guys. Emotions will be high. You've got the opportunity in joint practice Thursday against the Jaguars, obviously the preseason finale, and then we'll see what shakes out with injuries, how that impacts a lot of teams. So, yeah, a lot of movement, trying to organize the chess pieces, get everything set for week 1, and if they somehow lose this game in Indy, yeah.
I still think that's a tough game for them for a lot of reasons. We got a lot of time to talk about that, but let's get the business out of the way first. First off, if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, get it out of the way right here out of the top. Also, put a comment in the chat, put a comment in the comment section if you're not watching live after the fact. It's much appreciated. Also, shout out to the sponsor of today's show, Caneswear. Go to the website, caneswear.com, for the best and most affordable Miami Dolphins apparel on the internet. If you're in South Florida, stop by their shop at 2655 South University Drive in Davie. If you need anything for the Miami Dolphins, whether it's a hat, it's a shirt, it's a jersey, it's a jacket, it's a hoodie, something for the home, something for the car with the Dolphins logo on it, Caneswear.com is the place to go. They also got stuff for the Panthers, the Marlins, the Heat, and all that good stuff. And, of course, the Miami Hurricanes, Caneswear.com. Also, real quick, Dolphins Talk Extra. We got a sale going on between now, September 7th. Sign-up's only $1. $1 for the first month. Got to use the promo code DTX1. Bonus podcast. Some about the Dolphins, some not. Private message board. We have contests. We have a survivor pool, a pick'em league, fantasy football might be filled up, I'm not sure. And we give away cool prizes like a full-size autographed helmet of Dwight Stevenson from his days at Alabama, national championship inscription, mini helmet autographed by Landry, mini helmet autographed by Wake, bobblehead dolls, never been out of the box. We got so much stuff going on. Patreon.com/Dolphins Talk, DTX1, promo code. All right, first topic I want to talk about, because I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about the preseason game from last week because it was whatever. But for 2 preseason games in a row here, Josh, this Ollie Gordon, he's impressive. There's something going on here. He's looking pretty good. And you got Alexander Madison out for the year. Achan's got a calf injury, which those take time to heal. And I know Mike McDaniel said what he said. He should be ready for week 1 to say, okay, fine. But those take time to heal. Jalen Wright hasn't really looked great. I know it's a preseason and you don't want to read too much into it. But Ollie Gordon, who's running behind that same crummy offensive line that Wright is, with all the guys out there who really aren't the starters, showing a little bit of burst, showing a little bit of speed, showing a little bit of energy, running over guys. Never want to get too excited, but this guy's looking really good. And he might have some real playing time when we get to the regular season. What do you think?
100%. I mean, people forget that he was the Doak Walker Award winner 2 years ago at Oklahoma State. Had a down year. I was actually shocked that he was still available in the 6th round. Really happy that the Dolphins were able to grab him. But he's a very, very good football player. And you're also seeing him in the passing game, which is something that we know that you need in this offense. So right now, I truly believe that the Dolphins running back room is set. And I think the biggest compliment that I could give Ollie Gordon right now is that you brought in Jamal Williams, who was a great 3rd down back, veteran player that's been in the league a long time. He's flashed in Green Bay. He's had great seasons in New Orleans. And they basically decided to go and just kind of get camp bodies because Ollie Gordon solidified what I believe is a roster spot And he's like, look, we don't need to spend the money on that. We can go do something else. And I almost believe that the Matthew Judon deal happens because Ollie Gordon was good and they were able to allocate the money that they could have given to a veteran running back elsewhere. But, to me on offense, I think he's been a nice piece that we've seen. I think Weiss has flashed a little bit out of Missouri. We'll see what happens here. There's a lot of competition with the wide receivers. Once we talk about the third on down, I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah, right now, Ollie Gordon looks like he's going to get legitimate reps in the regular season and possibly even jump Jalen Wright if he continues to play like he has.
Yeah, I mean, he was great at Oklahoma State. Even last year, the year was like a little bit down for him. He still scored like 13 touchdowns, and Oklahoma State was god awful last year. And I think so far, look, I'm not there every day watching each one of the practices, but from what I've seen in these games, and again, take him with a grain of salt. I know.
Yeah.
He's out playing right, and I don't even think it's close. And now we got this news with Achane, which he's not going to be out for the season, but it's not, and I know you got to be careful online because you got guys who do the fancy football stuff, and they talk to an MD. He goes, with a calf injury, that's like 5 or 6 weeks. You got to take it slow. No. Yeah, I know. But the point is, it is a calf injury, and it might take he might not be 100% here for a few weeks, and he might go into week 1 100%. But I think Ollie Gordon. But I think you still have to limit his snaps a little bit, maybe at the start of the year, and not go nuts with Achane, just run him in the ground coming off this type of injury type of deal. I just think Ollie Gordon, he's going to get snaps come September, and I don't know if that was on anyone's. If anyone was expecting that 3 months ago.
No, I don't think so at all. And you can throw Alec Ingold into the mix here. He had the concussion early, so I know that he's a fullback, but obviously somebody in the backfield that could have potentially gotten some reps. The offense looks different with him in that position, him being the only player in that spot. But, as we go into this final preseason game, I'm curious to see, how many reps Gordon will play, because honestly, at this point, I would like to maybe see some other players. I think he's shown me enough. With the injury to Achane, if he's not 100%, I would want to keep, Ollie healthy, and the same with Jalen Wright. So very curious to see, how they come out of this practice on Thursday against the Jaguars, and then what Mike McDaniel decides to do for this preseason finale on Saturday.
Yep. Matthew Judon, we have to talk about here as well. I'm not going to say I was surprised by the signing because I know Chris Grier last year tried to trade for him. He ends up in Atlanta because their offer was better. The only thing that's a little bit surprising is this offseason, they have done a good job of ridding themselves of old men. They got one of the youngest rosters in the league. They got rid of all the old men. And they went out here and they signed a 33-year-old. Now, I know he's not coming in here to start, and I know he's not here to be he's here to sort of be a part-time pass rusher only. I get it. But still, the fact that they went out there and they signed a 33-year-old here is a little surprising. And I guess the question that a lot of fans have been asking are just sort of thinking out loud with this, because this did kind of come out of left field, because we've been seeing in camp all the reports. You see in the games that Grayson Murphy's been playing well, that McClendon's been playing well. We got a lot of guys there at that spot. Why we add one more? So people tend to think, well, do they not trust Phillips or Chubb to stay healthy for a full year? Or is there a chance they might look now to move Chubb and maybe get some help at cornerback in some way? Do you think this move was to set up another move, or are they just looking to stockpile edge rushers here because they need as many as they can get with the secondary in the shape it's in?
I honestly think it's a combination of both. I think all of those factor into the decision. At the very foremost of this, I would say, look, you're trying to get as many good football players as you can on this roster. We understand the age. We saw what Calais Campbell did last year and what he brought to this locker room. So Judon brings experience. I think he brings a certain level of toughness that, we've talked about and the team has addressed that they've been lacking. But that it's going to be Chop Robinson. You hope that it's going to be Bradley Chubb. You don't know what he's going to look like. We don't know what Jalen Phillips is going to look like. So I think this was a really good insurance move. But again, the name of the game in today's NFL is putting the opposing quarterback on his back. And I don't mean to talk like this, but it's true. I mean, you knock the opposing quarterback out of the game, it's a completely different contest. And when you can rotate pass rushers and you can keep players healthy, the goal is trying to win past January, and you need a pass rush. So, to me, it's a great fit. $6 million, potentially with incentives. I think that's a really good price tag for what you're getting, kind of value add. And from the players that I know that have played with Judon, they love him. They think that he's a great locker room fit here as far as the personnel that they have. So to me, this was a really solid ad, and you're hoping that he can get, a few tackles for loss, 5 sacks. I think you're happy with that. And more importantly, just kind of show a couple tricks to the trade to these younger guys like a Chop Robinson. And you mentioned McClendon and Murphy coming up. So there's, kind of a coaching component to this too. Maybe the best analogy that I can give is maybe a Udonis Haslem on the Heat, where he was brought on not to play. He was brought on to mentor and to keep players accountable. And I think Judon's going to bring more than that, because I think that he is going to make plays on the field. But more importantly, this is a place that he wants to be. And we know that Chris Grier loves him. And it's interesting to me, in this season, I might be looking into this. He goes and gets his favorite player, which is Minkah Fitzpatrick, and brings him back. We know that Judon has been high on his list. So, Chris is trying to get the guys that he really likes. And, I truly believe that in his 10th year here, it's a playoff situation, or there might be some pieces maneuvered in the front office. And, I like that Chris Grier is going and getting the guys that he likes and that he wants, and they're able to get deals done. And, here we are week 1. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, it's because it's 1 year up to $6 million. Up to is the key word.
Up.
It's just a positive move anyway you slice it. Even if he's not the same guy he was 4 or 5 years ago, I think most people understand that, but he's not going to be asked to even be the guy he was last year with Atlanta, where I think he started like 15 games and he had everything on his plate. Here, I think it really is situational pass rusher. Just get after the quarterback. 15 to 20 times a game is probably all they're going to ask him to do. And that's fine. That's where, that's probably the perfect role for him. And if it does allow them at some point to be like, look, our secondary is in worse shape than we thought. We need to move a piece.
Yeah.
Chubb, final year of his deal, coming off a 3rd ACL injury. Jalen Phillips, I know fans love him. He's in the final year of his deal, though. I don't know if there's plans to keep him or not. If you get a chance to move him to add a piece to help you in the secondary, if he's not going to be here next year anyways, that's a possibility. I'm not saying they are. I'm not saying they will. I'm saying it gives you options, at least, if you want to.
I mean, for the fans, I think Melvin Ingram is a good comp. I think that Judon gives you a little bit more than Melvin Ingram. What he did, 2 years ago, you brought in Justin Houston, and the playoff week, they didn't have any pass rushers. So I think this was kind of the timing of this. That the veterans are going to get signed about this time. They need a week to ramp up. But to me, signing him now shows me that this is a place that he wanted to be. And I would expect him to get some reps early in the season. I don't think he's just going to be riding the bench and letting Chop Robinson, Bradley Chubb, and Jalen Phillips in there. I see him in the mix.
Okay. Yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. Before we get to the next topic, I just want to give a shout out to everyone watching and listening at finheaven.com. Everyone go to finheaven.com, largest Miami Dolphins message board on the internet. Also, a shout out to our friends at the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page, run by the great and talented Carlos Hernandez. If you're on Facebook, please be sure you are part of the I Am a Miami Dolphins fan Facebook page. And wherever you're listening, whether Apple Podcast, Spotify, Podbean, PieChaser, iHeartRadio, Audible, or one of the other hundreds of platforms we're on, hit the subscribe button. Tomorrow, Wednesday night, big show. Got a surprise joining us. Don't want to say who. You're going to want to tune in. So you want to subscribe to wherever you listen. So when we go live, especially on YouTube, if you're on YouTube, subscribe. So when we go live, you're notified. You don't miss a surprise. All right, we got to talk about the secondary, Josh. This is going to be the death of me, I think, this year.
Let it go.
There's nothing to let go, because it's clear they're not going to do anything. Or they're not going to do anything substantive, I think, at least, until after week 1 of the regular season. Then all the contracts are no longer they can sign guys if they want to let them go week 6, week 7, week 8. They're not on the hook for the money. So after week 1, I think that's when, and I know fans, there was a report today about Asante Samuel. It's not true. He wasn't there. It was fake report. So he wasn't in town. But someone like that, maybe week 2 after the Colts game, yeah, sure, I guess, because there's less risk involved for the team. Same thing with Rasul Douglas, who at this point they've made him 2 offers. Are they going to even make him a 3rd? There comes a point where if he doesn't want to be here, he don't want to be here. So why are we begging him? So I don't even know if he's even in their thoughts and plans anymore. And there's some other guys out there as well. And of course, there's, people talk about, well, in a week, there's going to be so many guys who are cut. That's great. we're going to get a guy who was cut from the Panthers, someone who's cut from Seattle, someone who's cut from Cleveland to come in here. They're not going to come here and save the day. If they're not good enough to make those teams or good enough to make even a team that is good like the Ravens, like you're not getting anything there. I mean, yes, you might get a guy who's slightly better than someone we have on our bench, but they're not going to come in here like and start because someone else. So I don't know what they're doing. Sounds like they're doing nothing. And I got a feeling this is going to be a long season because, fans today were celebrating that the Colts are going to start Daniel Jones. And I'm sitting here saying he's got just enough experience to make even our lousy secondary probably look bad. So I don't know how, the pass rush ain't getting to the quarterback on every play. I know that. Are we going to do anything with this group?
They did sign Cam Dantzler Sr.
They did.
Went to St. Thomas Aquinas High School, but not the one in South Florida in Fort Lauderdale.
That's a problem.
But again, I'm thinking that the Dolphins like players that have not been in the NFL for the past year. So Dantzler was a third-round pick out of Mississippi State, was in the CFL, then the USL, the Rock League, if you will, the USFL that formerly was. Yeah. But look, they want to take a look at this guy, and it's not going to cost them any money. And I think that's what fans need to realize, that I know we'll talk about the Colts in a minute, but I truly believe you can go into Indy with the roster that you have and you win that game. And I think that that's kind of the mindset that this front office has is let's get through this final preseason game. Let's see the health of our team. And then we have essentially a week to figure out, what we need to do. And then we still have another week because there's no fourth preseason game. You have 2 weeks in between to really put this thing together. And we're going to see how this stacks out. And if I'm Rasul Douglas from a player perspective, I'm waiting to see who gets hurt this weekend, which is why I personally wouldn't play any of the starters, but I know you got to, field the team. But to me, I know that the starters have played one series essentially, and I wouldn't risk it.
I agree. I think it'd be smart about some guys like Grant, Savanaya, I'm playing them because I want them to get some
rookies.
Well, I think when it comes to Zach Sealer, Chop Robinson, Hill, Waddle, no way I'm putting them anywhere near the field. And
there's no reason to. And it's look, Storm Duck needs the reps. And we talked
those
about
guys.
There isn't enough of a secondary to rest.
Exactly.
You don't have enough guys. So for me, it's trial by fire. Let them be on an island one-on-one. Look, it's the hardest position arguably in football to be in that spot and see what you got. Let's lace it up. Let's go. Brian Thomas Jr. will be here this week. Obviously, one of the young up-and-coming receivers. Are curious to see how that plays out in practice. I don't know what we're going to see from Travis Hunter. He was hurt last week, but I know there's a lot of hype around him. Curious to see what happens in some drills if he goes or not. But yeah, I think we're going to stand pat right now unless there's someone that we absolutely want. Get through this game. We'll figure it out. It was really funny. We talked to Anthony Weaver this morning, and we asked him, how do you feel about the status of your cornerback room? Because, there's pretty bare. And he's just luckily I sleep great at night, and luckily my wife's really hot, so that helps. It was
got perspective.
Yeah. So, he's look, it's the team I got. I can only coach the players that I have. But, it's interesting. In the last few years, the weakness of the defense has been the middle of the middle linebackers, and now we have the strongest that we've certainly had under Mike McDaniel, and this is the first time that we've been kind of barren on the back end. Unless that there's some sort of coverage coming where we're seeing kind of Minka is he's a strong we're not going to see him in an elephant role. We're not going to see him. I think he's going to play a traditional role, but he can't do everything back there. But again, if you can get to the quarterback and, hope that, you can win some one-on-ones, and I think that's the mold right now. But really for this team, I think they're okay with giving up 25 points a game, 28 points a game.
They plan on scoring 30. Yeah.
Yeah. It's your offense needs to put up numbers. And I think that's the mold. You got to score more points than the other team to win. And, this is going to be an offensive team again. And, we need to see it what it was in 2023. And honestly, I think everyone knows that that's the expectation. And I think it starts with Mike McDaniel and Tua. And I think they're very much aware. And we're going to see what happens.
I also think, too, I think the part that makes it very curious for the people who follow this team day in, day out, people who listen to shows like this and other various podcasts that Chris Grier for the past, 10 years has put such an emphasis on the secondary. Like he had that 1 year, Xavier Howard, when he was still Xavier Howard, and he had Jones, and he still used a first-round pick on Noah Igbenogany because you can't have enough. And he's just double down and triple down on the secondary pieces. Big money spent year after year in the secondary. And this year, it's just been like slamming on the brakes and like, nope, we're just going to go no money in the secondary outside of one player in Mika, obviously, but that was a swap with Ramsey. So it's not like they really spent any new money. It was just a swap kind of. They just slammed on the brakes, and now they're just doing a 180, which makes me – I just have to think in the next 10 to 14 days or so, a move's coming out. It's not going to be a big move. I'm not saying that, but there's going to be a trade. There's going to be something where they get a guy, and not just like a guy like this guy today, who I'm sure is a nice person. I mean, he ain't going to come here and help. I mean, a real – guy who can actually like has a resume, who's got 40 starts under his belt, somebody who's actually has a little bit of a resume. I'm not saying he's gonna be a great guy, just a little bit of a resume.
Right.
I have to think that's coming, because if it's not, it just makes me go, did he have a come to Jesus moment and change everything he's thought about the sport and not to invest any money in the secondary?
No, I think it's just who's available right now.
Well, that's the problem.
And right now there really isn't anybody that's worth dropping a bag on. And then depending on how you are with health, you might have – it's a numbers game. So some teams like to keep 6 receivers. Some teams like to keep 7. And if you've got that extra 7th receiver, then you can trade him for a decent cornerback. But I'll say this. Like, you look at the Eagles, and granted they hit on all of their draft picks, which has been huge, especially their first 2 rounds. Yeah. But – how he went out and he just made the trade, brought in the receiver. Good teams, championship teams make moves, and they're not afraid to make moves. And that's something that I would like to see from Chris Grier. And again, it's a long season. We have plenty of time to do this. We have the tight end with the Texans that got hurt. That was out of Miami. That was a high draft pick. They go and they get CJ a tight end. So it's like, teams are doing this. So, we'll see what happens here, but I think help is on the way. But I'm fine going into Indy with the cornerback room that we have, and I don't want to I'm bringing up his name. I'm sorry, Mike, but we heard all offseason this is Cam Smith's year, and so far, Cam has not shown a single thing. But missing on him, missing on Igbenogany, you're always judged by your misses and not by your hits. But those two, you were really hoping that you could find something there, and those two just didn't work out, and now you're kind of feeling it. And we don't really talk about this much, but I also feel that the first round pick that was forfeited due to the tampering with the Tom Brady, Sean Payton.
Well, there was more than one, because there was a first and I think there was a third. That's a lot. That hurt them.
That first round pick specifically is
costly.
And I mean, there's your corner,
there's your corner. Yeah.
But I mean, shoot, if you had Pat Surtain, obviously he's going to be all world now, but he's from here. You love that, but
yeah.
Here we are.
So let's sort of segue into that here. We look at this roster, like you said, probably out of the 53 spots, 48, 49 are probably locked in already. There's not much that's going to change at the final 3 or 4. And I don't know who they are. We can probably take a guess. Wide receiver, someone like a Weeze, who's sort of come on of late. Does he have a chance to sneak on? I don't think so. I think they'd probably love to keep him on the practice squad this year, but he's shown something at least. And so, hey, this guy might be a player down the road. He's someone who's probably fighting for a spot, though. You never know. I think he's on there. Those young edge rushers now with him, with Judon in the mix. How many are you going to keep? Are you going to keep all? You're going to keep those
you're keeping
those guys.
You're keeping McClendon.
Yeah. Are they staying? Okay, so then where's this I think it really comes down to the secondary. How many you keeping, who you keeping, and probably also offensive line. Usually it's 9-ish. Who are the 9?
God.
I don't have no idea, because after the top 5, it's the top 5, and after that, Larry Borum 6. Who are the last 3? Who the hell knows? I think those are where the questions are.
Totally. Yeah, and I think, again, health coming out of this game is going to be a big determining factor in that. But, I really think, we're hearing, it was just his birthday. I didn't talk to him about football, but we're hearing that Austin Jackson should be back week 1. but huge drop off, obviously, with the backup. Liam Eichenberg, we're still weeks away here. So I think you're going to need to add a piece on the offensive line. We talked about the starters being solid. It's just who are they going to have in a backup role? And that could be a possibility to bring somebody on. But yeah, it's a question of how many receivers do you actually keep. I think the Washingtons probably make this team, but questions at safety we really haven't seen.
Trader, yeah,
haven't seen him.
5 snaps against the Lions, 5.
Yeah, so I would like to see what happens this week, and then I think decisions will be made from there. But again, it's hard to tell in a third preseason game when you've got 4th string players playing. There's not much merit in it. Even like if Weiss goes out and catches 3 touchdowns, what
does it matter? I know
it's hard to judge. Like, he's not Waddle. He's not even, Westbrook-Akine. Like, there's that much of a drop off.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that fans have a hard time understanding. I mean, I heard, a bunch of people saying, yours should be the backup over Zach Wilson right now because.
Oh, don't kill my last topic, Josh. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
But it's, but again, it's like, this is where like the fandom's hard and the football coaches, like they view it very, very differently. And that's, something we got to take with a grain of salt as we go, through this last game, because you need your starters playing. And if they get hurt, then I think that's when you're going to start seeing some moves. But kind of ironic though, that Xavier Howard signs with the Colts here. That's who you're going to see week 1. Uh-oh, Mike, I can't hear you. Uh-oh, did my Wi-Fi go out? Sorry, everybody watching. Mike, I can't hear you. I don't know if I can hop back out, hop back in. Technical difficulties. Sorry, everybody, if you can hear me. I'm hopping out, hopping back in. See if it fixes it.
I actually think it was me, Josh. It wasn't you. Okay.
We're back.
I think we're back. I think it was me. I think I hit the microphone and I put myself on mute. Okay.
Mute?
See, I can't be talking with my hands.
What do I do with my hands?
Yeah, I know, exactly. Let's in the chat, we had a couple questions here. First one, any word on Samuels? Yeah, that was a fake report today. It's not true.
Yep.
This one, which your guy, I love Drew. I swear to God, he's the best. What's going on with Waller? I thought what he said Sunday night was awesome. No offense to any of the other tight ends in the room. He's just going to come in there and rock. That was awesome. I'm just ready for I'm so ready for Darren Waller now. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, Drew's a total hype man.
I love it.
It was funny because Mike McDaniel addressed this week that we may see him. Look, Darren Waller's a freak athlete, and I'm excited for the fans to really get to know him. I've spent a little bit of time with him, and just a really, really interesting guy. Obviously, interesting story. Had a lot going on in the personal life last year. But the biggest thing is that like he really wants to be here. And if this guy is half of what he was in 2020 when he was with the Raiders, remember everybody watching, Frank Smith was his coach, and that was the reason that he was coming here. And they'll never tell you this, but those two have been in constant communication. And when they knew that Jonnu was out, like they were kind of keeping in contact with Darren, saying like, Darren, we need you. Like let's do this, like planting the seeds. And then when that went down, it was like clockwork. But it's going to be hard to replace Jonnu. Jonnu rewrote the record books last year, best single season tight end history in Dolphins franchise history. So hate to lose him, phenomenal guy, but Waller's different. Pharaoh Brown had a couple moments in this last preseason game. Great body, but Mike McDaniel needs to get the ball in the hands of Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Devon Achane. And then anything outside of that is a bonus. But the difference is Waller can run, and Waller can clear out a lot of space. And so if you double somebody, someone else is going to be open, especially if we're talking about a short route where you can clear open the middle of the field, or however they're going to, adjust to depending on how these defenses play. And we've seen the struggle with the cover 3. Waller is somebody that can differentiate just in the way that he runs, and he's been doing a lot of running. And if the hands are there, there's going to be opportunities more so to open up for Waddle and Tyreek because you're going to have to respect Waller. And if you don't, he's going to shoot up the seam and it's going to be a big 30-yard gain.
Yeah. And I think there's also a few things in play here too. Number one, he's one of those guys, like now we're seeing a lot of those older vets sign because camp's pretty much over. They're going to sign now, come and do 1 week of camp and then boom into the season. And they're happy with that. They don't want to do the whole thing in July or start in July. I think with Waller, not that it was necessarily that with him, but he only needs a week or two to be ready. He'll be fine type of deal, especially since he was off last year and he's in shape and all that stuff. He's not hurt. So I think I also think the other thing with this is too, why put him out there every day in practice when there's fans watching, the media's watching, taking notes? Starting Monday, guess what? Bye-bye fans. Bye-bye media. They can do whatever they want with him.
Yeah.
Line them up in a special sub package that they're going to shock the world with or something.
Exactly.
And no one's going to know until they play the Colts. Why expose that to the world? Because, again, he's going to be here, not in the role he's been in years past. They're not going to ask him to be an every down tight end. He's going to be out there in passing downs. They got Hill to block. They got Parable, he's going to be out there on certain plays. This guy's just going to be out there to catch passes and make plays in the passing game. So why show the world what you might use him when you don't have to? And then Monday, that's not an issue anymore.
Exactly. I think fans, watching, they have to understand this, that there's no playbook in the preseason. You're not showing anything. And I
just call plays.
Yeah. And you're not really showing, you're keeping a couple aces in your sleeve for later in the season as well, because you don't want to show your cards all in the first few weeks. Again, it's a progression. And I think that's why with Mike McDaniel, in the first year, you remember a few years back, the 70 spot on the Broncos, no one had seen this. They didn't know what to expect. And you have that element of surprise with Darren Waller. And I think that keeping Jalen Waddle and Tyreek on the sidelines, I think you have an element of surprise. You go back last year, Mike, we've talked about this, Mike McDaniel's inability to adjust. We said, have the defenses figured out Mike McDaniel? Could he come up with a counter? And for me, we know that he's a very smart individual. It's exactly what he's been doing all offseason. And now we're just kind of waiting to see what that looks like. So I don't put any stock into these preseason games. I don't put any stock into that Lions practice that everyone was really worried about. But the reality is you have a pretty easy schedule to open the season. You need to take care of business early because the second half is a gauntlet. And if you can, start 3-1, which I think is realistic. I think obviously it's going to be tough going to Buffalo, but you get to 3-1, 4-1, 4-2. You're sitting in a really, really good spot.
Yeah, I think the way to solve that issue for McDaniel, and I hope he does it, run the ball. Don't let teams just sit there too high safety, take everything away from you. Just run the ball, make the safeties have to inch up a little bit, and then you can run your offense any way you want. And if they aren't, then you just sit there and keep running it down their throat, and hopefully you have success with it and make them stop it. And if they don't, you're going to have a lot of 9-10 play drives where you eat up 5-6 minutes and hopefully you score at the end of it. I think you just run the ball. That's how you fix this offense.
Yeah, look, we saw that long drive, the first drive of the preseason with Tua and the Bears. It was 14, 15 plays. And, control the clock, keep your defense off the field, get your quick hitters.
2023, they're number 1 or 2 in league in rushing. That's why they were the top offense. 2024, they weren't near number 1 or number 2 in league in rushing. Yeah. It's not that complicated.
Can't be one-dimensional. And, we talk about it all the time. And, this is where Mike McDaniel got his defensive coordinator, Anthony Weaver, back. First time with a repeat defensive coordinator. So he didn't have to worry about working that in. This offseason was him on the offense. He has all of his pieces. Darren Bevel staying here. Could have gone elsewhere. So, really no turnover, a lot of continuity, and now you want to see rewards. And if the Dolphins can answer all of these questions that we're posing, they're a playoff team. That's a big if they can answer those questions. Yeah. And that's what we're going to
and next week this time when we do a show on Tuesday, we'll know who was cut, who wasn't, and we'll also probably have the waiver claims because they go through on the 26th. So we'll know by about 4 o'clock next Tuesday prior to us going live if they put in any claims, what they got. So next week's show, tune in on Tuesday for myself and Josh, because we're going to have pretty much the 53-man roster, not totally finalized, but we'll have most of it probably, and you'll have an idea who's here, who's not, if they put in any waiver claims on some guys, if they got anybody. Again, the waiver claims, they're going to go too nuts over because you're getting guys who are cut from some other team for a reason. And yes, they might be slightly better than what we have, but they're not going to move the needle too much. But you never know, I guess. You never know. We did get Zach Sealer off a Ravens once he was cut. So you can find that needle in a haystack at times.
Yeah.
So it does happen. But everyone, thank you for listening. Be sure to follow Josh on social media at The Mo's Knows and watch him on WSVN 7, South Florida's #1 news station, now an ABC affiliate too. And follow myself on all social media at Dolphins Talk. Check out the website, DolphinsTalk.com. Tomorrow night, big surprise guest. It's myself and Tom. We got a third wheel coming on. Big guest. Big guest that you want to miss. So wherever you listen to the podcast, subscribe so you don't miss it. YouTube especially, subscribe, hit the like button, put a comment up. Everyone have a great Tuesday night. We'll talk to you again after a while. And folks, don't forget, we must put an end to highway profanity.